Thank you very, very much. Well, you know, I thought this was the British Columbia premiere, but this is the world premiere. So again, congratulations. And a huge amount of work. Really extraordinary. Thank you so much. So now there's a chance for a question. Does anybody have a question?
Yeah.
You've got
Can we bring up some of the people who made this film? Please come forward. Kirk Tugas, our cinematographer from Vancouver. Where are you? Here he comes.
Lisa Christensen and Ian Tom, would you come down if you could? And Jeff Henschel, our sound. If you could all come down. And I know Stu and Tony asked to just remain in their seats, but I would love for both of you to raise your hands. Lawren Harris's granddaughter and grandson that were in the film.
Can we have the lights up a little bit so people can see Stu and Tony, Lawren's grandchildren?
And Lawren's here.
One of my oldest friends, Ben Lowe, aka Lawren Harris, from Montreal, now living in BC. So, any questions? Can we have the lights up a little, please, so we can see? Can we see the people? I can't see. If you have a question, we're trying to answer it. No questions? Come on. Okay.
How was the script created?
A script for a documentary? Can we turn up the house lights a little bit?
We mixed, we had some spectacular interviews with Ian Tom, who's here at your very own gallery, and I think Ian had to go, unfortunately. And Lisa, there you are, Lisa, and other experts who we interviewed to get the gist of their perceptions of Harris. And then we mixed it in with as much of Harris's own voice as possible, so drawn from his letters and recordings and anything we could use in the way of primary materials so that you could feel as close as you could to Harris. And it was a matter of mixing those two narratives together and going to these fabulous locations where Harris went.
over there. Yes, sir, over there.
Did Harris ever meet O'Keefe?
Aha.
We don't think so, but we know he met Alfred Stieglitz, her husband, but there's something that was quite interesting we found in the research, and that is George O'Keefe did a very famous painting of a church in New Mexico, and amongst the photographs that Stu, Shepard, and Tony kindly shared with us was a photograph of the identical framed church that O'Keefe had painted. So we know he was very aware of her work. He had scrapbooks with her material in it, but there's no evidence that they actually met face to face. However, I believe Emily Carr did meet O'Keefe. You would probably know that, but we don't know if Harris met her. But clearly there's a parallel between their work. You know, when you see Harris's pieces beside George O'Keefe's, there's such similarities. And in the Boston show, by the way, some of the comparable American artists were shown beside the Lawren Harris paintings, and many of George O'Keefe's paintings were being hung in that gallery.
How long did it take you to get from start to end for the movie?
Well, I was asking Stu this yesterday when we first contacted Stu Shepard. I think it was 4 years ago, and he had a relationship. He and Tony had a relationship with another filmmaker at that time, which fortunately for us didn't pan out, and so we were able to make a kind of an exclusive arrangement with Stu and Tony to tell their grandfather's story. So it's taken, I don't know, 3 years or so. It's hard to remember. These are big commitments when you jump into these projects. But it's been a wonderful journey, and we've learned so much.
Over here. I was just wondering if you know approximately how many paint lifetime and if he was the most prolific of the group of 7.
How many paintings did he paint in his life? Where is Alex Blair? There is a young PhD candidate in this room who is doing, with Stu and Tony, a catalogue raisonné. So Alex, what's your latest count?
Hard to say exactly, but probably 2,000, 2,500. We don't necessarily, that's everything, so small paintings. Definitely not that many large canvases. And a lot of them are, he actually started scraping off panels later in the abstract phase, so he would take old landscape panels, those small ones, and scrape them off. So we don't know how many of the landscapes that we see in old pictures or old drawings actually don't exist anymore, so there might be fewer, but yeah, we've got well over, close to 2,000.
You've got your work cut out for you, Alex.
There's 130, I think, Harris paintings in our film. Nancy had to clear the rights to every one of them, get high-res scans of every one of them. Can you imagine how long that took?
Did you have to pay for any of those rights?
We had to pay for some of them, unfortunately.
What was the most that you had to pay?
Well, I'll talk to you outside after.
Over a glass of wine, that conversation should be held. Yes, there's a question here.
Where can we see some of the abstracts? Because we don't see them that often. Is there a secret place?
Has Ian left?
Yes.
I think he had to go and see his mum, unfortunately. The Vancouver Art Gallery has some abstracts, but I don't know if any of you are dare to bother going to Ontario these days when you're living out in this gorgeous part of the world. But beginning in February at the McMichael Gallery will be an exhibition just based on Harris's abstracts. And Reld Nasgard, who appeared in the film, is curating it. And what's interesting is he's bringing up George O'Keeffe, Arthur Dove's, Kandinsky works, so that you can get a better context of Harris's work with the other painters of his time and those artists that he was looking at.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Was he known in Europe?
Do you know, I don't think at the time he was. He did exhibit quite a bit throughout the States. The group of 7 traveled frequently, and he won, the big stump, as A.Y. Jackson called it, that gorgeous Lake Superior canvas. That won the first prize in Baltimore at an exhibition. So I think he was definitely known in the United States, but not to my knowledge, did he ever exhibit in Europe in his lifetime.
The Wembley show.
Sorry, Wembley.
I know something that Nancy'd forgotten. I can't believe it.
No, we did exhibit in England. I'm sorry, in the 20s.
So Nancy, I have a question. What do you think, if you asked Harris, what does he mean by spiritual, what do you think he would have said?
I think he would have said it's that thing beyond the thing that you see. So when he was in the mountains, when he was at Lake Superior, he was striving for, maybe it's the after effect. When you've been somewhere that really speaks to you, wherever it is in your travels, and you're imagining, you're remembering what it was about it that really touched you. I think that's the thing that he was after. It's not exactly what it looked like or where you went or what you ate or who you met. It's all of that combined and how it affected you and how it changed you and maybe made you think of other things, maybe made you move forward. Totally off the top of my head.
Any other questions? Well,
One at the very top there.
Yeah, well, your film, when I was watching it, reminded me just how very, very Victorian, or late Victorian Harris was. I mean, he goes through the very Victorian paradigm of beginning in a traditional faith and then having his crisis of faith in the First World War and working through towards these theosophical ideas as a kind of new faith. And so that kind of reminded me, too, that we beyond Canada. Where does your film position him finally? I mean, is he important?
Oh, I would agree with you.
A Canadian painter or someone who?
I think that, you know, when Steve Martin said he was a national painter that deserves to be international, I think you're absolutely right in terms of what he read and what he thought about. He read Kandinsky, he was a friend of Marcel Deschamps. You know, he knew European painters well and their thinking, and he was a big supporter of the growth of abstract work in America. So he was at the forefront of abstract movements in the United States as well as Canada. So I think he deserves more recognition on an international stage, absolutely, because he was thinking about universal things that all painters think about. And that's not the tree up in northern, you know, Ontario. He's thinking about what does a tree do? How can these beautiful representations move us at a very fundamental level? And to be honest, in the world today, thinking of all the things that are going on, if you just go and stand in front of a beautiful Lawren Harrison in a gallery, and it will move you and take you to a place of peace and beauty, I think that is something that all artists in the world hope to do for all of us, and that's what for me is the most moving part of his work. So I'd say that's the universal qualification. What do you think?
We really wanted to make a film about his spiritual journey and voyage, and I think, you know, all of us are on a spiritual journey to wherever that takes us now and beyond, and we hope we've, you know, fulfilled that in some way. It really, filmmaking is very much a team sport, and we're so grateful for Ben and Kirk and Lisa and everyone who made this film with us. And we're really grateful to you for being here at this moment and this day for the world premiere of this film, because it turns that circle, completes that circle. So thank you very much for inviting us to the Vancouver Film Festival. Oh, there's another question? Okay, sorry.
I'd like to thank you, first of all, for such a beautiful film that now can spread the word even further about Lawren Harris, and for honoring us with the premiere, which is just a great gift. And I'd love to hear more about the people who you're sharing the stage with right now, both their individual contributions, if you wouldn't mind telling us.
Well, Ben Lowe, one of my oldest friends, is a very accomplished filmmaker and cinematographer in his own right. Of course, plays Lawren Harris. Kirk is one of Canada's foremost cinematographers, particularly documentary cinematographers. Kirk Tugas from Vancouver here. Nancy?
Lisa is an author and has written extensively about artists. Particularly, she wrote a wonderful book called The Hiker's Guide to Lawren Harris in the Rocky Mountains. Did I get that right? And close enough. And she lives in Calgary and works in the art world of auctions. And at the end is Jeff Henschel, who was our sound, who clambered up all those mountains with all his heavy gear.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.